Hello everyone, to my channel. Today we're doing a reading for sign of Aquarius, and keep in mind that this does not resonate for every Aquarius. If you like a personal reading, it's going to be the first link in the description down below. Repeat that first link in the description down below for a personal reading. You also find a bunch of other things there in the description. You can find my Etsy shop, which has my tarot and my oracle cards on there, and a bunch of other things there on my Etsy shop in the description down below. You can also find my shirt store, my website, different social media platforms I'm on, as well as Patreon. All that's in the description down below. If you'd like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so. I do appreciate donations here. So Aquarius, let's see what Spirit has in store for yourself. Okay. Number 2, the pet. Number 7, Haru. Number 7, once again, with Astereth. This is the chariot here. Okay, if you remember in your last reading, we were talking about the chariot. Here's a chariot here. Okay, we were talking about that spirit chariot. There. That's why I pulled this deck. Number 7 was Shy. Okay, look at this. 777, Aquarius. Number 5 with All Set. 8 with Maftet. Number 5 with Happy. Or FE or whatever. Number 4 with Kanebu. That's how you say that. Now let's have a look at these cards here, Aquarius. Okay. So there's none in that family. Any in here? Yes. Number 7. Okay. It says another lion-headed and fiery goddess is Astereth. Introduced into Egypt from Syria during the 18th dynasty, Astereth, also identified as the goddess Ishtar, or Astar, was a powerful and popular goddess throughout the Delta. After she was adopted by Egyptian people as a goddess of love and beauty, she had close affinities with Het-Hert, and the rituals in her honor were said to be aesthetic orgies of love and pleasure. As a goddess of war, she was closely allied with Sekhmet, and her father was identified as either Ra or Ptah, the inseminating fire. Here, Esther is shown standing on her war chariot and brandishing a whip. She holds control over the 4 horses, which symbolize the 4 elements. As a divine horsewoman, she expresses and directs the living creative fire as she wills, tramples over her enemies and the enemies of Ra, who stand in her path. As a number 7, she is a netter of movement and connections, bringing in the cosmic fire into the realm of matter. The use of the horses in war was adopted by Egyptians from eastern desert dwellers who, in comparatively late dynastic times, when they learned the effectiveness of war chariots in conquering the enemy and expanding their borders, Astereth, driving into battle with her rampant war horses, was a leader and protector of warriors who held her in the highest honor. See that? So we were talking about the lion as well. We were talking about that lion spirit, the chariot spirit. This is this right here, Aquarius. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the last Aquarius video I just did. Okay. Divinatory meaning. The conquering of one's enemies, sensual pleasure exalted to become spiritual joy, travel for one's advantage. Okay. This is called the Mistress of Horses. Aquarius. So that's what you're connecting with right there. So 1, 2. Represents beginnings. Pet is the sky. Oh, A represents beginnings. Pet is the sky. Okay. The sacred animal of a pet is the hippopotamus, a symbol of maternal gestation and nursing, chosen because the female suckles and cares for its young for a long period of time. Living beside rivers and stagnant parts of streams, the hippopotamus typified pure animal mass, consuming vast amounts of delicate aquatic plants such as papyrus and lotus to satisfy its huge appetite. A pet, or ta'ert, is the primordial form of the Great Mother who gave birth and was the wife of Seth. Hers is a figure so ancient and belongs to an order that was set in heaven for use, not for worship, at times, or types of time, and force, and not of beauty. A very ancient pre-dynastic goddess, Apet was later identified with both Mut and Nut. She was also called the mother of the sun god, to whom she gave birth at Ombos, and for this reason the city was called the Meskinat, or birth house of Apet. She also presided over the ancient city of Apt, or name for Thebes. As an ancient star goddess, Apet was related to the part of the sky. Apet was where the North Pole was situated, for in the celestial north was the mythical birthplace where the Great Mother, Ta'ert, was represented as the bringer forth from the waters in the shape of a hippopotamus, nothing that's older than the Great Mother and child, and as Ta'ert and Seth, the Great Bear and Dog Star. These were the gods of the Typhonians within the land long before. They were reintroduced as the Semite Aster and Varsikta. I don't know if that's how you say that. But the polar star was the fixed point, the center around which everything resolved and which was continually giving birth to everything. Thus, Apet was the pregnant goddess, the netter of multiplication and generation. She is also the netter of archetypal numbers. And in this card, she holds the Ankh of life, and in one hand, the other resting on the emblem of the protective magical power. This is her knot, or noose, her womb, which is the earliest form of the Ankh, and she was a beneficent netter, and appears in the Book of the Dead as a kind guardian of the dead and Duat. Many of her statues have been found in tombs where she accompanies the mummies, leaning over her umbilic knot as the image of brooding life, fulfilling her role as the most ancient genetic tricks of the gods she is invoked. O Api, mother of Unas, give thou thy breast to this Unas in order that he may convey to his mouth so he... Okay, this is weird. The crocodile behind her is a form of the god Sobek, another creature known for its very ferocious appetite. The Sethian animal personifying darkness and death. Its name was derived from a root that signifies to collect or to bring together, and it was believed together that which had been separated by the evil power of Set, and to bring new constitution and life to the elements which had been severed by death. As the elements were reconstituted by Sobek, so they were gestated and given birth by Apet, who was continually multiplying life upon earth. The multiplication of assets, pregnancy, gestation, a return to the still center, the source of the phenomenal world. Okay, so we have this with you as well. Okay. This be new beginnings here. Alright. You have this goddess, which is kind of like overcoming those challenges there, overcoming those enemies there. There's travels there. There could be that of like new life here. There could be that of like pregnancy with Sobet And a pet that doesn't have to be yours can be yours or someone around you, whatever. Either way, it's like multiplication here. We got number 4. To build, also to unite. Khnemu is another powerful god of pre-dynastic Egypt, and his worship was centered in the city of Elephantine at the first cataract of the Nile. It's near Elephantine or Abu, where the ancient Egyptians believed the source of the Nile to lie. The original form of Khnum was that of a water god, especially of the Nile River. As a water god, he is seen with outstretched hands over which flows water, and is seen sometimes with a jug above his horns, which indicates his name. As the god of the Nile, Khnemu guarded the yearly flood that inundated the delta by keeping the doors that contained it, and drawing back the bolts to let the rushing water sweep through Egypt. His consort, Setet, was also associated with the Nile's flooding, with the rising of Sirius. So you notice we're talking about Sirius, we're talking about the dog star here as well, Aquarius, okay? Like this over here. But Khemu's primary function was in the terrestrial world, where, along with Ptah, he carried out the plans of Thoth for creating the universe. As with Ptah, he is often shown at the potter's wheel, but whereas Ptah created the earth and the heavens, Khenu fashioned humans, animals, and other beings to populate the earth. A scene from one relief shows Khenu at his wheel creating a child, along with child's Ka, while Hathor, sitting opposite, holds out the Ankh to the child to give it life. In the same way, Khenu created the gods, and he is called the builder of men, and the maker of gods, and the father who was in the beginning. The elaborated headdress he wears includes the crown of the south, with feathers, 2 eri, and solar disk above his characteristic ram's head. His most ancient symbol, the ram-headed Khenu, was worshipped as the ram of Mendes, king of the south and north, the ram, the virile male, and the holy phallus, which stirred up the passions of love. As this cult increased in power, it incorporated Ra, Asur, and Khenu under the figure of the ram's head, as Khenu Ra. All of the creative power of Ra was given to Khenu, and he became associated with Auset, goddess of the south, and with Neith, one of her names being the Lady of Abu. As with Ptah, Khenu is powerless to give life to his creations without the female principle embodied within the goddess who holds the Ankh. With his 4 ram's heads facing each of 4 directions, yet centered in the crown, Khenu expresses the 4 elements necessary for his creation. Ram's horns represent the fires of Aries, the rising of the vital fluids of springtime, the creative energies projected into the world. In this way, the spirit of Khenu exists in all things, just as the soul of the artist is in the sculpture, the soul of the potter in the pot. The great primeval creative force that Khenu unites himself with 4 great gods, Ra, Shu, Geb, and Asur, together giving the powers of the 4 elements. Ra represents fire, Shu is the air, Geb is the earth, Asur is the element of water. Divinatory meaning, creative, powerful, and self-expression, successful execution of plans. So see, this is another thing that you're connecting with here. Once again, we're talking about life here. Okay, bringing forth life. Okay, so connecting with this and this together. Bring that in here. And we are in the season of Aries, which might represent that, if he's talking about Aries there. Okay. So this, okay, which I think we were just talking about that goddess there. Number 5 and number 7. The throne. Auset, or Isis, was the greatest and most loved of all Egyptian goddesses. Her celestial symbol is a star, Sept, or Sirius, the source of life. Her terrestrial symbol is a throne, the earth power principle, which transmitted to her son Heru, which is funny, we're talking about that. It gave him the ruling power over the doubled land of Egypt. In the story of Auset and Ra, we see Auset as a cosmic goddess who also wanted to have terrestrial power as a woman and magician. In this story, she creates a snake to bite Ra, who has become old and feeble in the dying of the snake's venom, Ra trades his secret name for Aset's healing ministrations. She absorbs his power and passes it on to Heru, who becomes the young son with the divine right to rule over the earth, a power in which in turn he transmits to the pharaohs. The consort of Aset is the netter Asur, the first god to die and be resurrected. In the cult tradition, both Aset and Asur walk the earth in human form, survivors of the catastrophes that destroyed the earlier civilizations of Atlantis. In the early history of Egypt, they were described as coming as teachers, bringing the knowledge of agriculture and healing, and establishing the first temples of the gods. When their task was completed, they were said to return to the stars where they came from. For Aset was the soul of Sirius. See, once again, we're talking about Sirius here. Okay, that Sirius system. And Asur dwelt in Orion. Aset was always depicted as Asur's loyal and loving wife. When he was tricked and murdered by his brother Seth, Aset searched for the land for his body and gathered all the pieces to make a corpse live again. Only one part was missing, the phallus, so Aset created life and the solar principle Heru out of herself. In the form of a bird, she sought her brother's body ceaselessly and went round about over the face of the earth, uttering cries and moans, and when she did not desist from her quest until she found it, she saw he was dead. She produced light with her feathers and air by beating out of her wings, and then by the means of power which she obtained from Thoth, she roused Asur from its state of helplessness and inactivity and united herself to him, and became with child by him, and in due course brought forth her son Horus in a lonely place unknown to any. Aset was not only gives birth to Heru, the sun, she also revivifies the dead of Asur. She makes the corpse alive again. This myth concerning the resurrection of Asur epitomizes the human condition for Asur. While connected with Aset in the principle of life, it is not subjected to the cycles of human death and rebirth. When he conjoined himself with Nebdet, the principle of corruption and decay, he lost his immortality and was subject to death at the hands of Seth. While Asur united with Aset, it was not possible for him to die, but Nebdet caught him into her fatal embrace in Seth and fixed the principle that fixation slayed him. Only Aset had the power to restore his immortality, and her son conceived through Asur is Heru. The son reborn, the son conceived by Nebdet through Asur is Anpu, a messenger, a guide from the realm of the dead. It was Aset who would take care of Anpu, who was abandoned by his mother, and he was always her loyal companion. Through her devotion, extended to Anpu in the Duat, Aset is seen to govern even the principle of death and decay. She contains all the principles within herself. One of the symbols is closely associated with Aset's is the scorpion, a guardian and protector. Also, the physical contraction and expansion of the scorpion's body, especially the tail, it symbolizes the rhythmic contraction and expansion of the vital life functions, breathing, sexual activity, birthing. Also, the scorpion, in order to escape, stings itself to death. While Aset was escaping Seth to give birth to Heru, she was accompanied by 7 scorpions. She also had a most powerful ally in Thoth, who assured her that Heru shall be made to sit upon the throne of his father, and he shall avenge him and take the possession of the rank of the prince of the 2 lands. Disguising herself, Aset sought refuge at the home of the queen of the district where she was wandering, but the queen, not recognizing her and afraid of the scorpion, shut the door on her and said a poor woman gave her refuge. Later, one of the scorpions stung the queen's son, and hearing of her great sorrow, Aset returned to the queen's home and restored life to the child, laying her hands on him and uttering the words of power. When her own child of Heru was bitten by a scorpion sent by Seth, Aset herself was overcome with grief. Again Thoth came to her, saying, "Fear not, for Aset have taken human form, experiences human emotions, including fear and sorrow." Thoth also gives her the message. Goddess, glorious one, who has knowledge and power, how to use the mouth. Behold, no evil shall come upon the child Horus, for his protection cometh in the boat of Ra. I have come this day in the boat of the disk from the place where it was yesterday. When the night cometh, the light shall drive away, for the healing of Ra, or healing of Horus, for the sake of his mother. And every person who is under the knife shall be healed likewise. Later in his life, a great warrior, Heru, confronted Seth to avenge his father Asur. They fought together for 3 days and nights, but when Seth was on the point of being overpowered by Heru, Aset intervened to save him. She could not allow one principle to be destroyed. To do so would mean the end of creation. Heru is a limited principle, being only one of the eyes of Ra. He cannot see the other side because it is opposing him. Furious with his mother for saving Seth, he cut off her head with his words of power, and placed her head with the head of a cow, emphasizing her cosmic nature as the Milky Way. Universal attributes of Aset were incorporated by the local goddesses throughout Egypt, and some of her forms enumerated by. In her terrestrial aspect, she is related to agriculture, the growth of crops, and harvest, and specifically as a corn goddess. As personification of Sirius, she was held to have brought the destruction of the fiend of Apep by the means of her words of power. As a lady of love, she is the goddess Hetert. As the great goddess of Duat, she was Thenenet. As the power of flooding Nile, she was Setet. As a mighty earth goddess, her name was Essert. As a goddess of fertility of the lands, she was Anquit. And as the goddess of harvest, she was Renenet. As the goddess of Duat, her name was Ament, the hidden goddess. As the giver of life, she was Ankh. Her attributes are unlimited. She contains within herself all principles and all powers, both terrestrial and celestial. Plutarch and Isis and Osiris described Aset as having dark hair, fair skin, and blue eyes. Magical knowledge and protection, great powers of inspiration and creativity, the bringing of life, and honoring of the female principle in all things. Once again, this is what you're connecting with here, this Aset here. Okay, we should connect to the Sirius star system. The bringing of life, connecting with this here. Us being better protected. Aquarius. We have Heru here. We have Heru, that which is above Heru, or Horus, is one of the best known of the Egypt gods. Throughout the dynasty, he was widely worshipped from the very earliest period of Egypt's history. The name Heru means that which is above, and in its form of a hawk-headed man, wearing the red and white crowns of the south and north, united, that this netter is usually depicted. He holds the Ankh of life, a bow and arrows in his right hand, and a club in his left. Above the double crown is the eye of Heru. The hawk was the first living creature to be worshipped throughout the double land, and is a keen-sighted ruler of the air and heights of heaven. The hawk became the sacred creature of the king of the gods, Heru, and the symbol of the divine kingship on earth. The royal powers is Heru incarnated on earth, as the pharaoh becomes Heru. He has the right to rule, as the son of Aset ruled over all of Egypt. Many forms of Heru are described in Egyptian mythology, some of the most prominent being Heru the Elder, Heru, okay, it keeps going on. Heru, the son of Aset and Asur. Heru the Elder was a primordial netter, a solar principle who, by day, was the face of heaven, as Seth was the face of night. The sun was referred to as the eye of Heru, one of the eyes through which Sirius energies are transmitted. The other eye of Heru was the moon, shining with what reflected the light of the sun. As the power of the heat, the sun, he was Heru Bahet, crowned with the double-winged sun disk in Uri. The power which fills all of heaven and the world with his brilliance and light. was Hera, son of Alset, who appealed most strongly to the Egyptian imagination. He was a great warrior who destroyed the enemies of Ra without mercy. In his eternal battle with Seth, with the cosmic drama of light and darkness, which is most vividly portrayed, Hera's archetype is the victor, the winner who obtains what he is fighting for. He was born from Alset after she revived the body of Asur, but he grew up with one great passion, to reclaim his father's heritage from the Seth and avenge his father's death. When Egypt was divided into two kingdoms, Hera ruled the fertile lands of the north, while Seth ruled the arid deserts of the south. The final victory of Hera gave him kingship over the two lands, an event which has been interpreted historically as the conquest of the southern lands by a king from the north. Even as a child, Hera was confronted by Seth's enmity, and the scorpion sent to kill him almost succeeded but for Thoth's intervention. He grew up to be a formidable warrior, trained by his father, and armed with an iron spear and chains with which he killed and bound his enemies. In this form he was called Hera, the avenger of his father. The battles against Seth and Apep were filled with slaughter. Hera was praised by Ra for his courage in defending the light and life-giving powers of the sun, for Hera was Ra himself reborn, the sun god, victorious over death. From his birth in the Delta, Hera is the divine light held earthbound by Seth, his fight in the eternal struggle between light and darkness, the fundamental polarity between the cosmos and chaos, exploring this polarity further. Pharaonic myth shows Seth and Horus as enemies, the one and the other. Plato's same and other, the fundamental decision. What is and what is not, being and non-being. All these in one single state, which become accessible only through initial decision. The ultimate realization is the union, friendship, rather than enmity of Seth and Horus. Hera obtains the power of his father not by killing Seth, but rather by keeping Seth under control. By keeping a balance between these two principles, as a solar principle, is intimately involved. The creation and rulership over the world, radiating energy illuminating the earth, but it's by its very nature. The sun casts a shadow, the same shadow, Hera's twin, against which it was continually struggled. In the duet, Hera helped the dead even as he helped his own father, by meditating between the judges of Duat and the soul of the deceased. He was raised up the ladder that reached into the heaven, and held up in the place while the deceased climbed up from the darkness in the light of Ra. He watched over the funeral rites and ceremonies of Asur, and was assisted by the Naturu, his 4 sons, who hold up the pillars of heaven. The way of Hera is a royal way of the sun, the direct path of magical transformation, while his father Asur represents the past. Hera is the eternal present, while Asur dies to be resurrected. Hera partakes of Alset's immortality and is the ever-living god. Another form of Hera is a young child, Hera Pitikart, a newborn baby, emerging from a lotus with one finger held to his lips. In this aspect, Hera is the personification of the rising power of the sun, the power within the seed to begin sprouting. Plutarch describes Hera as having fair hair and a fair complexion with blue eyes. Like many blue-eyed solar gods of traditions, the acacia and sycamore are sacred to him. Divinatory meaning: victory, the winner, triumph over adversity. So you're connected with Horus here as well. Aquarius, but there's victory here. There's big victory here. And I feel like this new life, right? Maybe even giving new life, or something like that, right? If shy with luck or destiny, together, the goddess. Mescanet and Renant. Shai is present at the birth chamber and at the judgment of the deceased. Sometimes he is shown coupled with Renant. These 3, Naturu, are always working together. They are connected with the individual's destiny from birth to death. Shai stands on a stairway leading up to a wheel that is in motion. This is the wheel of life, the circle of birth and death, growth and decay, with which we emerge in order to have a physical existence. The 8 spokes return to us as the 8 primordials existing in the darkness before creation, before the seed of life was planted in our solar system to manifest the human race. The seed of individuals' destinies in the birth brick of Miss Kennett. Shai has transformed the stone into symbol of the wheel. He is actively and consciously working with the results of his actions from the past. Having penetrated the mystery of transmutation, he now uses his knowledge to transform human consciousness, holding the ankh of life. He encompasses the wheel that contains all the elements of the universe. Shai is indeed the universe in a microcosm, and called by the Egyptian gods, the Egyptians, the god of luck or destiny. Divinatory meaning: a turn of luck for the better, freedom from bondage, the element of luck or destiny. Okay? This is another thing you're talking, like, these are all in alignment. You understand? Like, it's all a one story here. Okay, we're talking about birth, we're talking about pregnancy, we're talking about new life here, we're talking about what's being reborn here. We have Horus here. Okay, that's the victory, overcoming the enemies as well. Your life here is going to be turning a lot more for the better, Aquarius. Number 8. She who sees clearly, as Mot represented cosmic law and the sacred order of the universe, so Moftet personifies law on earth. The authorities, who try and judge the defendant and who exact punishment when the individual is found guilty of a crime. She too is found in the scenes of the judgment hall. The animal associated with Moftet is the lynx, an animal of the cat family recognized by its tufted ears. The meaning of Moftet's name derives from the cat's well-known ability to see in the dark. In this card, a lynx is shown running up the execution pole behind the figure of the goddess. This pole, which is curved at the top with a projecting blade, which struck fear into the hearts of the evildoers, was also called Moftet. The background is vivid blood red. Although merciless to the wicked, the lynx Moftet was a friend of the dead in Amanta, warding off the attacks of serpents who would try to destroy them. In the Book of the Dead, she helps Serket and Mot overthrow Apep in duet. And the double-hafted spear of Heru in his battle against Apep is likened to her sharp claws. Here she is shown raising the sword to execute 2 prisoners who, like Apep, have been found with fetters by the goddess Serket. Justice, punishment, paying for some wrongdoing, and imposed discipline of an earthly or spiritual nature. You see that? So there's justice here as well. You see that? Someone's wrongdoing. There's justice, there's punishment there. Okay? We just have one left. She's number 5. The Hidden One. Hapi, the god of the Nile, held a unique position among the Egyptian Turu. Without the yearly flooding of the Nile, no crops would be planted, the vegetation would die, and all animal and human life would perish. The Nile was the artery of life for the entire Egyptian civilization, and Hapi, being the personification of his vital flow of water, was held to be as powerful as Ra. For although the sun transmitted light and heat, there would be no life without the vital waters of the Nile. As Egypt was believed to be the terrestrial reflection of the body of heaven, the cooling moisture was the lifeblood, and the earth, the cosmic fire of Ra manifesting to the element of water. The occult symbolism, Hapi, stands for the fluidic energy of the astral body. Hapi was a very ancient name for the Nile, and as Asar was originally the god of the river, Hapi became identified with him at an early period and was included among his many forms. Even in late dynastic times, Hapi was invoked to bring yearly inundation. The rising of the Nile was celebrated as one of the most major festivals throughout the land, with statues of Hapi being carried through the town to be honored. following descriptions vividly bring to life the awesome occasion and significance of the flooding Nile. Once a year, the deluge comes down from above, flowing from the lakes lying far away, large as inland seas, and transforms the dry land into a garden, making the sandy waste to blossom and bear the double-breasted bountinesses of 2 harvests a year. With this new tide of life, from the heart of Africa, not only does the wilderness flush with color, but the waters, which had been running of a dull green hue, are suddenly troubled and turned crimson. The red oxide of iron mixes with the liquid and gives it a gory gleam in sunlight, making it run like a river of blood. Egypt was literally reborn annually as a slit from the water was added layer by layer to the soil. The year was made up of 3 months of inundation and 9 months of dry season. The 9 months coincided with the human period of gestation. As father of the gods, the vivifier of the land, Hapi was identified with all the primeval creative nature, including Nu, the abyss of the primordial water from which the sun god emerged. He is honored in human witch in Heim, which says, okay, there's a big thing there. This reverence with which the river god was held is sadly lacking in the world today, as our great rivers are polluted, diverted, and dammed, unbalancing plants' fragile ecosystems, bringing drought and misery to the inhabitants. Who worships the river today? There was a mysterious essence of Hapi. For a while, one could see the rising and setting of Ra for oneself. The rising of the Nile emanated from an unknown source, yet linked with the Sirius, as the Neter Setet indicates so well. Setet is the goddess of flooding of Nile, her function timed by the yearly rising of Sirius. The early Egyptians considered Hapi to live in a cavern somewhere beneath the first cataract from which he let loose the waters. And the yearly flooding was called the arrival of Hapi. This inscription is well illustrated in this verse. He cannot be sculptured in stone. He is not seen in the images on which are set the crowns of the south and north in the Uri. Neither works nor offering can be made to him. He cannot be brought forth from his secret abodes, for the place wherein he cannot be known. His name in the Duat. The god doth not manifest his forms, and idle imaginings concerning them. Hapi was worshipped predominantly at the island of Elephantine. The first cataract as Egypt was divided into 2 parts, so Hapi became a double god. As god of the North Nile, he is called Hapmet, and wears a crown of papyrus stalks. As the god of the South, he was named Hap-Rezerd, and wears a crown of lotus flowers. When shown as one god, he holds both the lotus and papyrus as the 2 vases from which he pours the Nile, representing the constellation of Aquarius. Okay, this is what you're resonating with quite heavily. This is what's around you. This right here. In the middle of the card is a complex knot, which the 2 gods are shown tying around a symbol called Haiti. The Nile seems to flow from this knot, conveying its vitality. It symbolizes by the lungs and heart, the breath and blood. To the north and south of the symbol, we must cite the ligature represented by the tube of okay, I don't understand biology, so I don't know how to say those words. This was said to indicate the pharaoh's rulership over the parts of Egypt, and as the god of the north and south, the 2 forms of Hapi were linked with the goddesses Ujit and Nekbet, but as forms of Asur and Nu. Hapi was also connected with Nut, Mut, and Aset as his female counterparts. Here we see Hapi in the fleshy body of a vigorous man, but with woman's breast, combining in one's image of both aspects of fertility. In this, he is like Mut, who is reversal of his forms, has a woman's body but the erect phallus of a man. The joining of opposition and harmony, an influx of positive energy, bringing in a sense of renewal, the fluidic energy of astral work. Okay, Aquarius, that's what you're connected. You're connected with all these right here. Okay? Bringing in victory, bringing in justice here, bringing in new life here, bringing in a big change of events, bringing in luck, bringing in, you know what I'm saying? Bringing in positivity, rebirth, renewal. So, let's get to some chunky stuff. So we have a Virgo, so you can have those placements, one around in here. We have this dragon. Dragon be the Chinese zodiac sign of the dragon. Dragon be power, strength, good luck, prosperity, supernatural powers. We also have the rainbow on it. Rainbow is ascension. Aquarius, we have this Egyptian snake goddess here. We have Bastet. We have this moth girl. It's connected with the moth, okay? The moth is connected to the moon. Alright, the moth is a spiritual initiation and awakening. Alright, awakening of psychic gifts and abilities. Aquarius, we have the green man, which you're connecting to. And we have Serapis Bay, which is Ascended Master of Light, which you're connecting to. We have rewards coming in Aquarius. Rewards coming in yourself. Okay, so that's all I have for you. And like I said, first link in the description down below for personal reading. Also go on my Etsy shop, go in there, go buy something. Really appreciate that. And if you want to see more content, don't forget to like, subscribe. Bye guys.